Part 42. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, De Chuanchi. Chapter 412. There was no difficulty, and Yejuju completed the B-level test within 20 minutes. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. 2 hours later, Yejuju's ranking jumped from 300 to 107. Wow! So fast, it has already reached 107. Do you think they will enter the top 100 today? There were exclamations, followed by the hissing sounds of the students. Zhaoruo was already jumping and cheering. Well done, Xiao, you really look good on my sister. Keep up the good work, boy. Strive to become the fastest student to break into the top 100 in the history of the training camp. Some people agree with this, and some people disdain it, but it doesn't matter anymore. Because, at the next moment, Luo Feng's name also appeared in 108. This time, the students did not taunt him anymore. It's easy to say that one of them entered the top 200 with such force, but 2 newcomers entered, which shows that Yejuju and the 2 are really strong. William was also in the crowd. He came to watch the excitement after receiving a message. Of course, he didn't have good intentions either. If Yejuju and the others failed to enter the top 100, he could taunt the 2 of them and express the bad anger in his chest. If both of them got in, he could notify Candace, who was out hunting. After killing Candace's majesty, the next step is to stimulate Candace. As long as Candace is irritated, Candace will cause trouble for the 2 of them. But with Candace's strength, he completely tortured Yejuju and the 2 of them, so he still believed it. In this way, isn't it still a disguised form of venting anger? He had just finished the phone call with Candace. Although he didn't hear Candace explicitly say that he wanted to cause trouble for Yejuju and the 2 of them, he could already hear his dissatisfaction from Candace's tone. At the same moment, 2 distinguished guests were welcomed into Yang Hui's office at the training camp. There was a man and a woman. The man was handsome and cold, and the woman was charming. They were none other than Hong's bodyguards, Charming and Bingshan. The purpose of their trip was naturally to meet Yejuju. Before this meeting, of course, I had to say hello to Yang Hui, the actual person in charge of the training camp. After Yang Hui learned the purpose of the 2 people's visit, he was surprised at first and then reacted. In fact, he had already made speculations since the last time Yejuju and Luo Feng teamed up to kill the 9-headed dragon snake. With the talents and abilities displayed by the 2 of them, they will definitely be noticed by the higher UPS. But what he didn't expect was that it would attract Hong's attention and even send Bingshan and Yaoreo to come together. When he heard Bingshan asking where Yejuju was, Yang Hui immediately called up the situation of the students and took a look. He was surprised and couldn't help but let out a breath of cold air. Enchanting asked with interest. Yang Hui, what's wrong? Isn't that little guy in the base? No, Sir Yaoreo, Xiao and Luo Feng are both in the base and are currently in the trial tower. Break into the tower. Yang Hui hurriedly explained, still unable to conceal his surprise when speaking. I really didn't expect that these 2 young people would be so powerful. They started to break into the tower less than a month after entering the training camp. After hearing Yang Hui's words, Yaoreo and Bingshan were immediately interested in taking a look. Of course, the 2 of them also passed through the trial tower, and their results were pretty good. Since Hongdu valued the 2 of them so much, they naturally wanted to see what results they would achieve when they broke into the tower for the first time. Deciding to go and see it, the 2 of them naturally did not delay. Accompanied by Yang Hui, the 3 of them went to the trial tower together. In the trial tower, Yejuju was already challenging the sea-level difficulty on the 2nd floor. He faced 200 high-level beast general-level armored scorpions and had to kill them within 50 minutes. Don't tell me, it's really difficult. It's not that these monsters are powerful, the key is that they like to sneak into the sand to attack, so Yejuju has to distract himself from dealing with them. Fortunately, Yejuju has a lot of combat experience. Even the armored scorpion, who is so good at hiding, cleared the second level of sea level difficulty in 45 minutes. After passing the second level, Yejuju's score rose to 20, and his ranking instantly rose to 87th. Good guy. The students outside who were paying attention to the changes in the list suddenly became uproar, shouting that they finally saw a pervert today. This is the first person who has entered the training camp and ranked so high within 1 month. Everyone expressed their admiration for Yejuju in their words. As for those who had previously mocked Yejuju and the two for overestimating their abilities, they had long forgotten what they had done before. When Bingshan and the other three came, they happened to hear the students' discussion. When they saw Yejuju's name suddenly listed at 87 on the list, Bingshan and Yaoreo couldn't help but feel surprised. In the trial tower, Yejuju entered the third floor and faced a junior lord-level monster. It was just a junior lord-level monster. Yejuju really didn't take it seriously. He had killed all the senior ones, so he still cared about this mere junior? As a result, Yejuju killed the monster in 3 strikes, 5 and 2, and his score rose to 23, and his ranking instantly rose by 10 places. At this time, Luo Feng also passed the second level test and ranked within the top 100. Keeping up his efforts, Yejuju immediately entered the B-level test on the third floor of the trial tower and killed 2 junior lord-level monsters. In less than half an hour, Yejuju passed the assessment again and his ranking rose to 48th. Facing 3 lord-level monsters again, Yejuju finally felt the pressure. Not only the number of monsters increased, but the 3 monsters could actually cooperate with each other, which made it difficult for Yejuju to kill them. There was a complete uproar outside. Many female students were impressed by Yejuju's strength, and the crazy ones even threatened to pursue Yejuju and become Yejuju's girlfriend. Seeing this, Yaoreo curled her lips in disdain and cursed in a low voice. Even Bingshan and the others didn't hear what she cursed. ai.hrefot.com. Yaoreo didn't know that she was becoming more and more interested in Yejuju. The difficulty of level C was very abnormal. The cooperation of the 3 monsters was very close. Even Yejuju, an experienced senior combat master, felt difficult. No wonder so many students were trapped on this level. He was very energetic and finally killed the 3 monsters with great effort. The score finally reached 3 points, and the ranking was fixed at 44th. Yejuju knew that he couldn't beat the 4th floor, and if he wanted to complete the task and win the first place in the training camp, he could only wait until his strength was upgraded to the God of War level. He regretfully withdrew from the trial tower, and saw 2 outstanding people when he walked out of the trial room. These 2 people were of course Bingshan and Yaoreo. The reason why they were outstanding was naturally because of Bingshan's white hair and cold temperament. Yaoreo was even more beautiful and sexy, which immediately attracted Yejuju's attention. Fortunately, Yejuju only had appreciation in his eyes without evil, which made Yaoreo feel a little more comfortable. It was not until then that a group of students saw the people coming, and they were immediately attracted by the appearance and temperament of Bingshan and Yaoreo. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, De Chuanqi. Chapter 413. Naturally, there were students who knew Yaoreo and Bingshan among them, and they couldn't help but exclaimed in low voices. Yang Hui quickly suppressed them with his eyes, otherwise once the students knew the identities of the 2 people, they would be in chaos again. To avoid causing trouble later, Yang Hui walked up to Yejuju and patted Yejuju on the shoulder, saying appreciatively, "Not bad, boy. In less than a month after entering the training camp, you can reach the 3rd floor of the trial tower. You are worthy of being the attention of so many high-level officials. ai.hrefot. Come, let me introduce you to 2 big shots. Let's go." As he spoke, Yang Hui took Yejuju's arm and brought him to Yaoreo and Bingshan, and said to them, "2 adults, These are the Yejuju and Xiao you are looking for. There are a lot of people here, so how about we go to my office to talk first? Although he said he was asking, Yang Hui had already taken Yejuju and took the lead towards his office. Yaireo and Bingshan took a deep look at Yejuju's back and followed him. Along the way, Yaireo was observing Yejuju. Seeing that he didn't look surprised and looked very indifferent, he couldn't help but think highly of Yejuju. Bingshan was not like that. He was very surprised as to why Yejuju was an ice warrior just like him. Perform. But there was no cold feeling at all from Yejuju's body. This is very unusual, isn't it? You know, he is one who is deeply troubled by the effects of ice abilities. The ice ability not only changed his appearance, turning his hair white. It also changed his temperament, becoming as cold as ice. But Yejuju was different. Not only could he not feel the slightest bit of coldness escaping from his body, his temperament had not even changed. He looked like a sunny boy. This puzzled him and gave him the idea to investigate. But he didn't know that the reason why Yejuju was like this was of course because of the system. If the system hadn't converted the ice energy into energy without attributes, Yejuju would have been like him, with his hair turning white and his temperament becoming colder due to the power of ice. When he came to the office, Bingshan asked unceremoniously. You, like me, are also ice-type warriors. Why can't I feel the slightest breath of ice on your body? Ah! Being asked directly by Bingshan, he was at a loss. Yejuju didn't know how to answer him. The key is that his ice ability is not innate. It was because he took the treasures and ice boxes of the frost giants from the Marvel world that he had the power of ice. He also didn't know why the breath of ice didn't come out of his body when he didn't use the power of ice. However, he also had a guess that all this was due to the system, otherwise how could he explain it? But you can't say this to Bingshan. In desperation, Yejuju had to say perfunctorily. I don't know what's going on, maybe. It's natural. After hearing Yejuju's perfunctory words, although Bingshan felt uncomfortable, he did not continue to ask further. After all, everyone has their own secrets, and others don't want to tell them and they don't want to force them. However, Bingshan still had to carry out the purpose of coming this time. After all, it was arranged by Hong, so Bingshan said directly. Okay, let's go to the martial arts training ground and let me see how well you have mastered the ice ability. After saying that, Bingshan took the lead in walking out of the office and towards the martial arts training ground without waiting for anyone to react. Yejuju was stunned for a moment when he heard the words, but then he reacted and was immediately pleasantly surprised, and hurriedly followed him. How smart he was! Just from Bingshan's words, he could tell that Bingshan meant to guide him. How could he miss this opportunity? Isn't this just what Yejuju wants? After he came to this world, one of the things he wanted to do most was to awaken his spiritual power, and this has been achieved. The second one is to learn how to perfectly control the power of ice from the iceberg. After all, he has the power of ice to freeze all things, but the method he is not allowed to use is a bit too wasteful, isn't it? Coming to the martial arts training ground, Bingshan asked Yejuju to use his ice ability to fight against him, wanting to see how powerful Yejuju's ice ability was. Yejuju did not hesitate, spread out his hands, and two ice skates quickly condensed in his hands. The moment the ice blade condensed, with Yejuju's body as the center of the circle, a cold breath spread out. Yaireo and Yang Hui on the sidelines were fine. After all, they were still far away. They just felt that the temperature of the martial arts training ground had dropped a little. But Bingshan, who is also a warrior with ice-type abilities, feels it keenly. Just as Hong said, Yejuju's ice ability is a little more advanced than his own ice ability in nature. At this moment, Yejuju moved like lightning, rushed in front of Bingshan in the blink of an eye, and slashed out with a single slash. There is no doubt about Bingshan's strength. Even though Yejuju's speed is already fast enough, Bingshan can still see the trajectory of Yejuju's sword. He stretched out his right hand very casually, and in less than a second, a small ice crystal formed in his hand. The sound of dang collided with Yejuju's sword, making a sound of gold and iron. However, a small piece of ice did not break after colliding with Yejuju's two swords. This hand really shocked Yejuju. Wow, so awesome. You actually used such a small piece of ice to simply block my full strength slash. That's incredible. It seems that the gap in realms in this world is not so easy to close. Yejuju thought to himself as he quickly attacked the iceberg with his sword. The iceberg casually resisted Yejuju's attack and did not fight back, earnestly feeling the power of Yejuju's ice ability. The battle continued, and with the sound of ding ding dang dang like hammering iron, Yejuju's fighting skills made the three people admire him. Because he always used moves that the three people could not imagine to attack the iceberg, often the angle of the sword was very tricky, and the sword was even more fierce, and he was unstoppable. In the eyes of the three people, his sword skills can be called perfect, which is not an exaggeration at all. The three of them even had a feeling that if Bingshan's strength was not several levels higher than Yejuju, even if Bingshan was a god of war, as long as he did not surpass the god of war, he would definitely not be Yejuju's opponent. After testing the moves, Bingshan wanted to see how powerful Yejuju's ice ability would be when he burst out with all his strength, so he said while resisting Yejuju's attack. Is this the only power of your ice ability? Show me all your strength, let me see how great the potential of your ice ability is. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan. Chapter 414. Hearing this, Yejuju couldn't help but feel sad and angry thinking about. You think I don't want to, who said your strength is planet level, I'm not even the god of war, how can I beat you? Good. Since you want to see my ultimate move, then I will satisfy you. Thinking of this, Yejuju quit the station circle and said to Bingshan. Then you have to be careful, my special move is very powerful. After speaking, Yejuju quickly condensed the energy in his body, converted the energy into the power of ice, and quickly compressed it in his body to form the ultimate freezing ball. This time when the freezing ball was used, the momentum was obviously much greater than before. It was obvious that the energy was much more powerful after being baptized by the spiritual power of the Hydra. I saw a strong wind forming around Yejuju's body instantly, and the sound of wooing wind howled, and then a small snow-white ball suddenly appeared on Yejuju's chest. The ball grew bigger in the blink of an eye, becoming as big as a football. An aura far colder than before quickly spread, and not only did the iceberg feel a hint of threat. Even Yang Hui and Yaireo, who were far away from the center of the battle, felt the danger of this aura, and subconsciously took a few steps back to stay away from this dangerous ice aura. Bingshan naturally noticed it, and couldn't help but become serious. Snowflakes appeared around his body out of thin air. A huge cold airflow formed around him and rotated around him, protecting the iceberg within it. The next second, Yejuju raised his right hand, opened his palm, lifted the ice ball in the air, and threw it towards the iceberg. The ice ball flew towards Bingshan at high speed with a whoosh sound, and Bingshan quickly took a step forward. Amidst the sound of crack, scratch, scratch, an iceberg made of ice spikes suddenly appeared in front of Bingshan, blocking him in front of him. The sound of pang, squeak, squeak, squeak kept sounding, but it was Yejuju's freezing ball that collided with the iceberg, and a rapid reaction occurred. The height of the iceberg suddenly increased by dozens of centimeters, and the ice pick became as white as jade. The same, obviously its hardness has increased by several levels, and the cold breath drifts out instantly. The air in the entire martial arts training ground was frozen into hoarfrost, and white ice and snow powder fell all over the ground. Wisps of white smoke are rising from the iceberg. Obviously, the ice is much colder than the icebergs that Bingshan can create with his ice ability. The two men may not be able to see anything, but Bingshan knows very well that the power of Yejuju's move is very powerful, far more powerful than any ice move he has launched. At this moment, Bingshan completely believed Hong's words. Yejuju is indeed an ice warrior with more potential than himself, and his future achievements are indeed higher than his. With this move, Yejuju used almost all the energy in his body, and the power that exploded turned out to be like this, which made Yejuju feel a little discouraged. I originally thought that even if I wasn't as good as those super god level warriors, I shouldn't be much different. But after today's battle, Yejuju realized deeply that no one who surpassed the god of war was simple. The iceberg in front of him is a living example, and he is now his impossible opponent as the god of war. It's no wonder that everyone thinks that the three Bingshan people are the strongest men in the world after Hong and Lei Shen. Seeing Yejuju's exhausted look after executing one move, Bingshan knew that Yejuju had used up all the ice power in his body with one move, and couldn't help but hate Yejuju for not fighting with him. There is quite a feeling that Yejuju has a treasure mountain in the sky, but he doesn't know how to use it, and it feels like a waste of natural resources. However, Bingshan was secretly happy. Hong was indeed right. As for the boy in front of him, before he learned how to truly control ice power, he can exert such power. Once he fully understands and controls the ice ability under his own guidance, it is hard to say how far he will grow in the future. Thinking of Hong's explanation, Bingshan decided to tell Yejuju all his understanding of the ice system's abilities, and help Yejuju grow up quickly and become a strong man who surpassed himself and reached the same height as Hong. Maybe, one day in the future, I will have the opportunity to see the day when humans counterattack monsters and restore human territory. Make a decision, Bingshan said to Yejuju. Okay, I already know the power of your ice ability. I have to say that your understanding and control of ice abilities are really weak. As immature as a child. Now, let me tell you how to use the power of ice. After saying that, Bingshan walked towards Yejuju step by step. There seems to be nothing special about the iceberg, just like a normal walk, neither fast nor slow. But every time he took a step, a flower of ice would appear on the ground beneath his feet. Around him, snowflakes fell from time to time, but they did not fall to the ground, but instead swirled and danced around him, which was really beautiful. Just 3 meters away from Yejuju, the cold breath on Bingshan's body suddenly became sharp, making Yejuju feel like his skin was being stung deeply. Kataka, Kataka. Suddenly, between the two of them, countless ice picks emerged from the ground. In the blink of an eye, they formed a large area, covering the entire martial arts training ground. But the magical thing is that although these ice picks are everywhere, they seem to have eyes, perfectly avoiding Yejuju, trapping him in a small space less than half a meter in radius. Seeing this, Yejuju couldn't help but take a deep breath and secretly said, "It's really amazing, this iceberg's control of ice ability is so perfect. Such a large ice cone was formed, and it could avoid me. The control is so subtle, it's terrifying to think about it. The most amazing thing is that I can't see how the iceberg uses its strength. To describe it in one word, it is calm and effortless, which is more appropriate." At this time, the voice of the iceberg continued to sound. "You are just a person, not a real god. Even if you have countless ice power in your body, what can you do? If you use it without restraint in a battle, it will always be used up. By then, if your enemies have not been killed yet, what will you do?" After hearing this, Yejuju couldn't help but be stunned, and then he woke up from a dream and said to himself, "Yes. Why didn't I think of it? No matter how much energy I have in my body, it will be used up in a battle. Do I have to fight melee at that time? Ordinary enemies are fine, but what about those real extraordinary people? Can you beat them in hand-to-hand combat? Thinking of this, Yejuju couldn't help but look at Bingshan with fiery eyes, wanting to find the answer. Bingshan saw that Yejuju understood what he meant at once, and couldn't help but admire Yejuju's cleverness. Recognizing Yejuju in his heart, Bingshan continued without hesitation. Don't forget, it's not just humans who have the power of ice in this world, the most is in nature. You can completely regard yourself as a medium, and use the ice elements in nature to exert your ice power. In this way, are you still worried that your ice power is not enough? Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, De Chuanqi. Chapter 415. While speaking, Bingshan raised his right hand as if he wanted to demonstrate to Yejuju. I didn't see how he acted, but the palm of his hand that was raised in the air was suddenly and quickly wrapped in ice. Not only that, the ice kept changing its shape in his hands. Sometimes it is a dagger, sometimes it is a sword, and it even becomes an extendable ice chain. What was particularly exaggerated was that countless ice chains appeared in his hands, crisscrossing them, forming a chain cage that enveloped the entire martial arts training ground. Hee. This is what I want. Yejuju shouted excitedly in his heart, he just wanted to learn this. Living up to Yejuju's expectations, Bingshan controlled the weapons turned from the ice around him while telling Yejuju how to use the power of ice in his body to communicate with the ice elements in nature and form various ice forms. A way to kill enemies instantly. The more he listened to Bingshan's explanation, the more Yejuju felt enlightened. Finally, while listening to Bingshan's instructions, Yejuju controlled some of the energy that had just been restored in his body, transforming it into the power of ice, communicating with the free ice elements in the sky. Ice elements are easy to communicate with. Yejuju just concentrated a little and felt them. When Yejuju's mental power communicated with these little guys, the ice elements suddenly became excited and restless, and responded to Yejuju's call one after another. At this moment, Yejuju felt that as long as he had a thought, these ice elements existing in nature would change into any shape according to his thoughts. With the blessing of his soul, Yejuju began to control these ice elements, creating various weapons in front of him, and even created a chain cage made of ice like an iceberg. This scene made Bingshan and the others open their mouths wide, looking at Yejuju as if they were looking at monsters. Yes. Just looking at monsters. Genius, it's not like they haven't seen it before. But like Yejuju, through Bingshan's simple explanation, he not only understood it in an instant, but also realized it one by one so quickly. What's this? Genius is not enough to describe it. With this understanding, it's no wonder Hong Hui thinks so highly of him. In fact, what the three of them didn't know was, if it were Yejuju before his spiritual power was awakened, he really wouldn't be able to achieve it so quickly. But just because he has awakened his mental power and reached the level of a junior god of war, it is naturally different. In fact, what Bingshan said about the ice element that communicates between heaven and earth relies on one's own mental power. Bingshan is not a spiritual master, so naturally he cannot communicate with ice elements as easily as Yejuju. In fact, even Iceberg only successfully communicated with the ice element after countless attempts and now has the ability to control the ice element at will. As a digression here, let's talk about Hong, the strongest person on Earth. He is the first strong man on Earth to understand the power of the domain. It is far-fetched to say that he mastered the power of the domain through the super high understanding of the Chinese Niajiaquan. But in understanding the power of the field, mental power is indispensable. Only when your mental power reaches a certain level can you communicate with the universe and understand and form your own domain power. The reason why these people clearly possess powerful spiritual power but have not awakened to become spiritual masters is a matter of personal talent. Otherwise, why would Yejuju obviously have a powerful spirit? Is it because he has divine attributes, but cannot become a spiritual master on his own, and he has to swallow the spiritual core of the Hydra snake to become a spiritual master? Say more. Yejeju has actually been exposed to the power of the field as early as in the Marvel world. However, the power of this field is still unformed. He absorbed the ice power of the icebox through the system. At the very beginning, he could release an ice force field with a radius of 50 meters to freeze the enemies in it. This was the initial prototype of the domain. It's just that he doesn't know how to control it or how to increase the power of this ability. But after arriving in this world, as long as Yejeju has some understanding and someone gives a little guidance, I believe he will soon master the power of the field. But this is all a story for another day. At this time, Yejeju is very interested in controlling the ice element. Not only can the variable elements be transformed into various weapons and chains, but the ice element can even be manipulated to form a solid ice wall, creating a huge refrigerator that can trap people or monsters inside and freeze them to death. Sometimes, on a whim, he would condense the ice elements into arrows and long swords, and then use his powerful mental power to suspend them behind him, forming a dense formation. This method was inspired by Yejeju after watching countless movies and TV shows. Haven't you seen in movies and TV shows that those powerful immortal cultivators wield swords like this? Not to mention the power of these things, the dense number of them can give people a strong sense of oppression and make the scalp of those who face them numb. Anyway, Bingshan and Yaoreo, who had already stopped the demonstration and retreated to the sidelines, were so shocked by Yejeju's hand that they opened their mouths wide and never closed them. After a long while, Yaoreo spoke first. Bingshan, do you know how to do this? It looks pretty good. Well, I can't. But I will study it carefully when I go back. As he spoke, Bingshan's eyes rarely shone with excitement. Then, the three saw that countless ice arrows and swords behind Yejeju began to spin and dance around him, just like the sword controlling technique in the fairy tales, controlling these ice arrows and swords, doing various flying and interlacing movements. It seemed that Yejeju was tired of playing, and he heard Yejeju shouting, "Go!" The next second, the ice arrows and ice swords all shot towards a tall boulder beside the martial arts training ground. The speed of the ice arrows and ice swords was extremely fast, with a sharp sound of breaking through the air, whistling and shooting towards the boulder one after another. Then, the ice arrows and ice swords hit the boulder weighing tens of thousands of pounds, making a chi-chi-chi sound. The three people present were at least war god level strongmen, and their eyesight naturally surpassed that of ordinary people. The three people clearly saw that after the ice arrows and ice swords hit the boulder, they would leave deep holes on the boulder. It is conceivable how powerful these ice arrows and ice swords are. In fact, these ice arrows and swords formed by ice elements are not as powerful as they imagined. I.Herfatfancyangchinese.com. The reason for this effect is that each of them contains a trace of Yejeju's mental power. The impact force formed by the mental power makes them so powerful. Of course, even if Yejeju already has the mental power of the primary war god level, he does not have so much mental power to launch such a big move many times. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, De Chuanqi. Chapter 416. No, when the ice arrows and ice swords all over the sky disappeared, Yejeju suddenly became exhausted and felt as if all his strength had been drained away. In fact, there are too many ice arrows and ice swords. It would be a huge consumption to attach spiritual power to each one. Looking at his energy value at this time, it has returned to zero, with not a drop left. Fortunately, he does not need to meditate to recover. As time goes by, he is recovering at a speed of more than 1 point per second. Good guy. Yejeju couldn't help but murmur to himself, saying in his heart, "Not just anyone can do this. You know it if you think about it." As strong as Luo Feng's mental power, he can only perfectly control 6 flying objects. He controlled so many ice arrows and ice swords at one time, which naturally consumed more energy. Fortunately, he didn't want to control the ice arrows he shot out. He just needed to add mental power to increase their power. It wasn't impossible to do it, but it just cost more. But even so, the power of ice arrows and ice swords with spiritual power is much greater than that of pure ice arrows and ice swords. Seeing that Yejuju had mastered the ability to communicate with ice elements, there was no need for Bingshan and the two to stay. When Yejuju came forward, Bingshan said coldly, "Okay, I've taught you everything I know. The rest is up to you to figure out on your own. We'll go back if we have anything else to do." Then, Enchanting walked forward, glanced at Yejuju charmingly and said, "Little brother, you are very good. I am waiting for the day when you enter the palace of the god of war." Cackling. After saying that, the two walked out without looking back. Looking at the two people leaving, Yang Hui sighed and said, "Xiao, you are really good. Now you are in the eyes of the gym owner. Keep working hard. I'm also waiting for the day when you join the Ares Palace." Yejuju nodded heavily and agreed, but in his heart he was very disdainful of the so-called God of War Palace. After all, he is not from this world and will return to the Marvel world sooner or later. To him, whether he wants to fight or not fight against the Divine Palace is nothing more than dispensable. After saying goodbye to Yang Hui, Yejuju returned to Jiangnan Pavilion and happened to see Zhao Ruo holding Luo Feng's shoulders and talking non-stop. Seeing Yejuju coming back, Luo Feng quickly broke away from Zhao Ruo's grasp, jumped up from the sofa and faced Yejuju and said, "Brother Ye, you are back, me." Before he finished speaking, Zhao Ruo interrupted. "Xiao, you don't know, Luo Feng entered the top 100 for the first time he entered the tower, and is currently rank 60th. Hearing this, Yejuju was a little surprised. He didn't expect that Luo Feng's grades would be much better than those in the original drama. Although it is only an increase of 8 places, Luo Feng's strength has not yet reached the God of War level. You know, among the top 70 in the rankings, there is not a single weak one. At least they are all at the peak of high-level warriors, almost reaching the level of God of War. Luo Feng can reach 60, which is really strong. Of course, this is still a bit worse than him. No way, encourage it." After saying a few words of encouragement to Luo Feng, Yejuju entered his practice room. He wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to understand the moves that could be used by combining mental power and ice power. The next day, when Yejuju was practicing, he was summoned by Yang Hui to inform all the students that according to Hong's instructions, the training camp was about to hold a supernova selection competition. Students who had entered the camp within 3 years would hold an internal competition to determine the first and second place. 2. And the reward this time is also very impressive. It is the complete set of 9 series combat uniforms that Luo Feng once received in the play, any intensive set, 10 billion reward money, and a dragon blood potion that is most important to warriors. In addition, what surprised Yejuju was that there was a reward for second place. Although it is not as good as the first place, it only lacks 1 dragon blood potion. But the second place has 1 more qualification to buy dragon blood potion. After hearing the news, Yejuju was confused for a moment. But then I realized that this was just Hongzhe rewarding himself and Luo Feng in disguise. However, whether you can get this reward depends on the strength of yourself and Luo Feng. As for dragon blood potion, Yejuju was still very coveted. After all, among his attributes, physique is really on the low side. Dragon blood potion is just a good thing to enhance physical fitness. Because Yejuju is not sure whether after using the dragon blood potion, he will be upgraded by 2 levels like the warriors in this world. But improving one's own physical attributes is an inevitable result. In order to get this good thing, Yejuju had no choice but to silently say to Luo Feng, "I'm sorry. Let you be the second place, after all, you still have the qualifications to buy dragon blood potion, right? Although the value of the medicine is as high as 80 billion, but it is qualified after all, right?" As long as you work hard, you can earn something. In the next 3 days, every student who has been in the camp for 3 years is busy practicing, hoping to improve themselves in these 3 days and win a good ranking in the competition. Of course, Yejeju, Luo Feng and Candace are not excluded. This is the day when the competition in the training camp begins. Yejeju, Luo Feng and Zhaoruo, 3 people who are qualified to participate in the competition, arrived at the virtual room of the trial tower early. Just like in the drama, the competition is divided into 2 stages. The first stage, which lasts for 2 months, all participating students are divided into 2 groups A and B for a one-on-one competition, and the ranking is determined by the points obtained by winning and losing. Finally, the top 8 students in each group are selected, a total of 16 people, and divided into 2 groups for a one-on-one elimination match. Finally, the first place in each group will compete in the finals to compete for the first and second place. As expected, Yejeju was assigned to the group with Candace. But Luo Feng and Zhaoruo were assigned to the same group. To be honest, this result was a bit beyond Yejeju's expectations. However, Yejeju quickly understood Hong's intention. This was just a chance for both himself and Luo Feng to get rewards. There is nothing to say. Since Hong arranged it this way, let's do it according to his intention and become the number 1 in the training camp. At the beginning of the game, Yejeju took the lead. The opponent he was fighting against was just a passerby. Yejeju easily caught his opponent in a few seconds and scored a point. Next, the students took the stage one by one. The most outstanding performances were from Yejeju, Luo Feng, Zhaoruo and Candace. In the past 2 months, the students had almost taken turns one by one. Today was Yejeju's turn. And his opponent. Not surprisingly, it was Candace who had also never lost a game. In the virtual battlefield, Candace was wearing full body armor, holding a sword in his hand, looking at Yejeju coldly, and the murderous aura in his eyes could almost scare the timid to death. Yejeju looked at Candace indifferently, but he was thinking in his heart. In order to defeat him, will Vinana and Li Yao make a move in this duel? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, De Chuanqi. Chapter 417. In fact, Vanina also proposed to use some tricks in this game. But Candace refused. First of all, this was just the group stage, and he won all the way. No matter whether you win or lose, you will be among the top 8 in the group, so there is no need to do anything. And if someone tampered with it during this game, it would definitely be noticed by the top management of the training camp, and they would no longer be able to use it. Secondly, he is also confident that he can defeat all opponents, including Yejeju and Luo Feng, with his own strength. Because he is already an intermediate god of war, but Yejeju and Luo Feng are only at the level of generals, so how can they beat him? In fact, being confident is certainly a good thing, but being overconfident is arrogant and will not lead to any good results. No, today he will be taught a profound lesson by Yejeju. Candace was very confident and did not attack Yejeju first, and said coldly, Yejeju, I'm going to let you know today that level restrictions are an insurmountable gap, so take action first. Because I'm afraid that once I take action, you won't have a chance. Hearing this, Yejeju laughed secretly in his heart, but he would not refuse to agree to such a request. He smiled casually and said, Okay, then I'll make the first move. After saying that, Yejeju dragged his sword. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. Sparks and lightning rushed towards Candace. Yejeju's speed is now 128 meters. Although it is not as fast as the god of war, don't forget that Yejeju has spiritual power to bless his legs. However, the current Yejeju will not bless him. He will wait for Candace to suddenly explode and catch him off guard when he is not paying attention. As for Yejuju, who exposed his strength in this game, will he have no trump card in the finals? Joke. Yejuju has so many methods. I promise to give Candace a surprise when the time comes. Yejuju rushed forward, and Candace could tell at a glance that although Yejuju was much stronger than the senior warriors, he was still far behind him. So he easily swung his sword and blocked Yejuju's attack. Then, Candace launched a counterattack, and the same perfect sword skills were displayed, which indeed put a little pressure on Yejuju. But that's all. Although Candace's sword skills are perfect, they are far behind compared to Zhongfang's. Put it this way. Candace is just a general who has touched the edge of the perfect level, but Zhongfang is a master of swordsmanship who has been at the perfect level for a long time. The difference in strength is indescribable, but even with Zhongfang like this, Yejuju can fight with Zhongfang back and forth, let alone Candace. As the two sides competed in swordsmanship, the students who gathered in front of the screen to watch the fight between the two were all shocked. Before the game started, many students predicted that Yejuju would be defeated by Candace. After all, Candace is an intermediate god of war warrior, and his sword skills are approaching perfection. However, Yejuju, who has just entered the training camp, is only comparable to an intermediate warrior. Once the two of them started fighting, Yejuju would not be defeated by Candace as cleanly as a blow. Who would have thought that Yejuju's strength was unexpectedly strong? Even his sword skills are on par with Candace's. In Yejuju's dozens of previous games, he obviously did not use perfect sword skills, but only used perfect body skills to defeat his opponents. This strength and scheming really made many students think that Yejuju was not only strong but also an old man. During the battle, Candace became more and more frightened. He didn't expect that Yejuju's sword skills were as good as his own, and even his body skills were perfect. In the past, the perfect sword skills and body skills that he was proud of could not get the slightest benefit from Yejuju. If he had not had an advantage in level, he might have been defeated by Yejuju. I.it her. For a moment, he even regretted why he didn't agree to his end and tampered with Yejuju's machine. He was proud and would not allow himself to lose at the hands of others, let alone a family enemy like Yejuju. Although he did not agree with Li Wei and did not want to avenge Li Wei at all, he would not treat Yejuju as a friend. At this time, Yejuju became more and more relaxed as he fought. Even though Candace was an intermediate god of war, his strength was just that. After all, there are not many strong people who understand the field like Hong, and there are not many who have special abilities like Bing Shen. More like Candace, in addition to possessing advanced skills, he is the purest warrior. Dealing with such warriors, although Yejuju would not underestimate them, he would not care too much about them either. Even if he can't compare with speed, he has the ability to sense danger and can always avoid danger in time when it comes. Although he is a little inferior in terms of strength, but with his mental strength and the 9-layer ice blade, he can also burst out at the critical moment to block the opponent's attack. No matter what happens, he still has the power of ice. I believe that once he displays it, Candace will definitely not be his opponent. In this way, Yejuju can be said to have stood on the basis of being undefeated, and all that remains is to see how he tortures Candace. Yes. Yejuju could have used his mental power as soon as he came up to defeat him without him being prepared. But Yejuju was unwilling. He also wanted to use Candace, a strong person among the students, to hone himself. Secondly, it is to dampen Candace's arrogance and let him know that just because he has some strength and family background, he doesn't need to look down on others. In fact, speaking of it, his impression of Candace is pretty good. At least in the original drama, he did not embarrass Luo Feng too much. But I don't know what's going on. Candace just can't stand herself. From the way he looks at her, it can be seen that he wants to kill Yejuju. After a long attack with no effect, Candace became anxious. If he continued like this, even if he defeated Yejuju, he would not let other students think highly of him, so he stopped using ordinary sword techniques to attack Yejuju. During the battle, Candace's momentum exploded violently, and the sword in his hand seemed unable to withstand his sudden burst of power, and began to tremble with a buzz. Suddenly, Candace slashed across the head with a knife. The speed was so fast and the angle was so tricky that it was beyond Yejuju's expectation. Seeing that he was about to be beheaded, Yejuju did not panic at the critical moment. He raised his free left hand slightly, put his index and middle fingers together, and activated his mental power instantly. A spiritual power invisible to the naked eye clung to Candace's blade, just slightly moving to the right. The sword grazed Yejuju's chin, and Yejuju took the opportunity to stab the sword straight out, and the tip of the sword penetrated deeply into Candace's heart. Candace's attack movements suddenly stopped, covering her chest with one hand, and her eyes widened. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan. Chapter 418. His mouth opened and closed and he said silently. You are actually a spiritual master. I'm not willing to give in. Candace's body slowly fell to the ground, and her body gradually turned into blue light spots and disappeared into the space. Yejuju exhaled and heard the system's congratulations in his ears, but there was no feeling of joy in his heart. Because he already understands Candace's strength. To be honest, if he doesn't have mental strength, he really can't beat Candace. Not only because his strength is truly superior to his own, but also because Candace's skills are also very advanced, not weaker than Thor's 9-layer thunder sword, and not weak when it explodes. This is a fierce rival. Yejuju couldn't help but think. At the same moment, Li Yao and Wenina, who were watching the battle through the external connection device, jumped up from the sofa in shock. Their movements were so big that they even knocked the coffee table under their feet to the ground. Li Yao bit and said fiercely. Humph. I didn't expect that you were the only one who killed my son and the Thunder team. Hee. Yes, you hide it well, but now that I know your methods, then you can go die. Hee. A spiritual master? I want to see if you can survive 10 moves under my hands. After saying that, Li Yao looked at Wenina and asked. Have you contacted all the people I asked you to contact? Don't worry, Yao. Hearing this, Venina also gritted her teeth, and Venina continued. I not only contacted James' mercenary team, but also contacted Fuzu's Kitahara Tsuyoshi and Sanrin assassin Isaac. I said her fought 5 dynasties, rivers, mountains, winds, and moon. The strength of these people is at least junior gods of war. Among them, Tsuyoshi Kitahara is one of the strongest ones in Fuzu. Especially good at killing enemies one-on-one. Pity. Only 2 of James' mercenary team are willing to accept the mission, and the rest. They are afraid of the consequences. Hee. But with these people, plus Yao, your words. I believe that as long as that kid leaves the training camp, he will definitely die. Hearing this, Li Yao thought for a while with a dark face, looked up at Wenina and said. No, this is not safe. Don't forget, that kid is still a spiritual master. You should know the methods of spiritual masters. After finishing speaking, Li Yao thought for a while and then said to Wenina solemnly. Find a way to drop a laser cannon from the base to me. Once you kill that kid, just return it. Is it necessary? Take such a big risk to kill him? Venina asked in confusion, but she kept holding on to her phone. She edited a text message and sent it to her subordinates. Li Yao turned around, looked at the freeze frame of Yejuju killing Candace on the screen, and said in a serious tone. No. Venina. You should know. The first place in this competition will get the Dragon Blood Potion. Once that kid gets first place, he gets the Dragon Blood Potion. His strength. It is no surprise that he will be promoted to the God of War level. That's when. It's not that easy to kill him. This. Wenana heard this, hesitated to say a word, and then said firmly. Okay. I get it. Still unaware that Li Yao and his wife had started to deal with him so early, Yejuju left the trial room in a happy mood and returned to Jiangnan Pavilion with Luo Feng and others. Needless to say, there was a celebration. After a night's rest, tomorrow was the second stage of the competition. Maybe it was luck. Since the beginning of this round of competition, Yejuju had not met Candace. The two did not meet again until the last game to decide the finals spots. This time is a competition that will determine the fate of the two of them, and neither of them dares to take it lightly. If you win, you will enter the finals to compete for first and second place. If you lose, you will just become a backdrop and watch others triumph. So, this time, Candace naturally agreed to Wenana's plan and controlled Yejuju's seat during the game. Candace no longer cares about fairness, as long as she beats Yejuju. To be honest, although he didn't value the benefits of winning first place. But Dragon Blood Potion is also a rare and good medicine for him. After all, this thing is so rare that it is rare to find it. Even the Bolanaz family can't have it if they want it. Although it is impossible for the Dragon Blood Potion to increase his strength by 2 levels to become the peak war god. But it can also greatly improve his physical fitness and lay the foundation for him to surpass the God of War level in the future. Again, he would not allow himself to be defeated by Yejuju again. So, he didn't care about anything. In the virtual competition venue, Candace looked at Yejuju with an extremely serious expression, unable to tell how complicated he felt. If there is any deep hatred between him and Yejuju, that's not the case. But only he understands how much of a threat a genius poses to him. If such people don't become friends, they can only become enemies. Yejuju glanced at Candace casually, but what he was thinking was, Li Yao and his wife will definitely do something this time. Then will Candace not take advantage of others' misfortune like in the original drama? Forget it. Never mind. Anyway, I'm ready to deal with it. Let him do whatever he wants. Yes. Yejuju was fully prepared for this day. Don't forget, he has Red Queen. With Red Queen's intelligence and absolute control over electronic devices, all the hackers in this world combined will not be its opponent. It's fine if Li Yao and his friends don't find out that they are doing something, but if they do, they will definitely teach Li Yao and his friends a profound lesson. The game has begun. Candace no longer has to be strong like in the preliminary round, and let Yejuju take the first shot. This time, he took the lead in attacking Yejuju. As soon as he started, he used a sword technique with extremely strong explosive power. He rushed to Yejuju at a speed as fast as lightning. The sword brought up a sharp blade and slashed at Yejuju's neck as fast as lightning. Yejuju felt the threat brought by his sword, and his body leaned back quickly. He supported his feet on the ground and floated backwards. Candace's sword brushed his nose and passed by. Before Yejuju could stabilize his body, Candace's attack was in front of Yejuju again. It can be said that Candace did not give Yejuju any chance to counterattack. He chased Yejuju and launched a series of attacks, hoping that Yejuju would lose to him without a chance to counterattack. Of course, the price of his violent outburst was weakness. If he could not defeat Yejuju before his physical strength was exhausted, then he would only have one ending, failure. Yejuju also saw that Candace did not hold back at all, and even compared with the previous battle, his strength had increased slightly. Obviously, after the last battle, he learned from his mistakes and worked hard to improve his strength. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, De Chuanqi. Chapter 419. But unfortunately, this improvement is negligible for him, and it does not pose any threat to Yejuju. Although he is suppressing Yejuju fiercely now, Yejuju has no problem at all. Not only did he not suffer any injuries, but his physical strength was also consumed very little. The students watching outside were also amazed by Candace's violent attack. Some even thought that Yejuju was not a match for the explosive Candace. But only a few people with eyes could see that Candace did not actually take any advantage. Among them, of course, there were Li Yao and his wife. Seeing Candace's crazy attack, the two had no way to deal with Yejuju. After looking at each other, Vainana picked up the phone and dialed out. As soon as the phone rang, it was connected. Vainana said in a grim tone, "You can start." The other end of the phone agreed and hung up the phone. In the virtual trial room, Yejuju and Candace were fighting fiercely, and both of them had perfect swordsmanship. One of them had superb swordsmanship and many tricks, which made the opponent overwhelmed. The other relied on the level advantage of the intermediate war god to fight back and forth with Yejuju. But only Candace understood that he had actually tried his best. If he couldn't take down Yejuju in the next battle, he would die of exhaustion. At this time, he kept praying in his heart that his aunt would do something quickly so that he could kill Yejuju. His prayer worked. The people arranged by Vainana had begun to invade Yejuju's machine. When the man started to invade Yejuju's machine, the Red Queen who was monitoring the two machines at any time immediately noticed it and immediately counterattacked. The speed of the Red Queen was much faster than the speed of the man's fingers tapping the keyboard. In just a few seconds, his computer was counter-invaded by the Red Queen and the command was seized and tampered with. The command to control the machine was sent out, but it affected Candace's machine. Just as Candace swung his sword to block Yejuju's slash, his virtual body suddenly paused uncontrollably for a moment. When masters fight, there is no room for error. Just a few tenths of a second of error caused Candace's slash to miss, and Yejuju's sword slashed through his arm holding the sword, cutting off one of his arms. Ahurfat I Dotsita. Ah! Candace let out a scream, and his body tilted and retreated. Yejuju succeeded in the slash and threw away the sword in his hand. He grabbed Candace's body with one hand and punched with the other hand. Candace's head swayed left and right, and he screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Yejuju did not give up. While beating Candace, he put his mouth close to Candace's ear and said coldly in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Candace, I always thought you were a big shot, but I was wrong about you. If you hadn't colluded with Li Yao and his wife, I would have let you go. But you actually agreed to let them tamper with my trial machine, then. Don't blame me, I'll beat you to pieces." After saying that, Yejuju quickly used his fighting skills and gave Candace a series of uninterrupted blows. Candace was terrified at this time, not because he was beaten by Yejuju without any ability to fight back. But his dirty deeds were discovered by Yejuju. What scared him the most was that Yejuju's machine was not tampered with, but his own machine had problems. It would be fine if the people watching outside didn't notice the problem. After all, their eyesight and knowledge are limited, and they won't notice the pause of a few tenths of a second. But how could he, the person involved, not know that the reason why Yejuju cut off one of his arms was that there was something wrong with the machine? And of course, they were not the only ones who discovered this. Li Yao and Vainana also discovered the problem, and shock could not describe their feelings at the moment. Vainana picked up the phone with hatred and called the person who made the move, and scolded him. After hearing the explanation from the other side, Vainana's anger was extinguished instantly, and she was terrified in her heart, wondering who was helping Yejuju, not only avoiding the calculation, but also turning around to trick her nephew and the Bolanaz family. She had to think more, because the status of the Bolanaz family in the alliance was obvious to all. Would the person who dared to interfere in the affairs of the Bolanaz family be a simple person? So, what is the purpose of this person? Did he just stop his plan because he didn't like his tampering with the machine, or did he have any intentions towards the Bolanaz family? Li Yao's thoughts were a little more complicated. He thought, Could it be that the top leaders of the extreme martial arts hall noticed his calculations and didn't like his use of such low-level means to deal with that kid, so they stopped him and calculated Candace to warn him? He had to be afraid. Who is Hong? He is the undisputed strongest man on earth. He is also one of the founders of the War God Palace. Whether it is his own strength or the strength in his hands, it is superior to the HR Alliance. So, what if he is angry and stops himself and kills the two guys? What else can he do? Yejuju's fighting is very simple and rough. Every punch hits the flesh, which only makes him feel pain, but does not let Candace faint completely. Although Candace was covered in scars and the corners of her mouth were dripping with blood, she just couldn't admit defeat. In fact, he was unwilling to admit defeat. He secretly accumulated strength again and again, hoping to find an opportunity to counterattack Yejuju. Unfortunately, every time he managed to gather the strength and courage, he would be ruthlessly shattered by Yejuju's fists. Want to find an opportunity to counterattack? That's even more impossible. You must know that Yejuju's punches and kicks are very coherent and intensive, so there is no chance for him to fight back. The more she was beaten, the more desperate and fearful Candace became. As time went by, Candace no longer had any hope of turning defeat into victory. He just wanted to end this fight as soon as possible, go back as soon as possible, and stay away from Yejuju as soon as possible, and stay away from this demon that made him feel terrible. Yes. At this time, Candace already regarded Yejuju as a devil, the devil he would always fear in his heart. He regretted extremely why he disliked Yejuju and wanted to suppress him. Seeing that Yejuju had no intention of stopping, even the onlookers sympathized with Candace. Finally, Candace could no longer bear this kind of unilateral mental and physical abuse. The Unicom control system chose to admit defeat, and her body disappeared into the virtual space with a movement of her mind. Yejuju's hand stopped in mid-air, looking at where Candace disappeared, curling his lips and whispering, "I'll teach you a lesson this time, don't give me another chance, otherwise." He didn't finish the rest of the words, but the meaning was clear. If he teamed up with Li Yao and his wife to scheme against him, Candace would definitely be defeated. Die. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, De Chuan-Chi. Chapter 420. The competition was over, and the system announced that Yejuju won. Outside the venue, Zhaoruo and others were cheering for Yejuju. Even those who disliked Yejuju did not dare to mock him. The scene of Yejuju beating Candace was too deeply rooted in people's minds. At this moment, no one dared to speak rudely to Yejuju. Because Yejuju had already demonstrated his strength and ruthlessness. No one wanted to offend Yejuju and be abused by him like this. Google search Furtkan. In the virtual space, Luo Feng won the match of Group B as expected, and the rest was the duel between Yejuju and Luo Feng. Re-entering the trial room, before getting on the machine, Luo Feng said to Yejuju seriously, "Brother, yeah, I will fight you seriously." Yejuju was stunned when he heard this, and heard the lack of confidence in his words. Yejuju smiled and said, "Okay. I will also fight you with all my strength." Of course, this is just talk. If Yejuju uses all his strength, I really don't know if Luo Feng will be hit to autism. Just kidding, not to mention Yejuju's own high-level combat master talent skills, just the use of the ice power that has skyrocketed after being instructed by Bing Shen. Even if Yejuju's mental power is much stronger than Luo Feng's, Luo Feng is not his opponent. This is not to mention the mechanical pets in his space that have never been used since he came to this world. Even if their strength is not as good as the warriors in this world, they will cause them a lot of trouble after coming out. Of course, Yejuju will not let the mechanical pets fall behind too much, he will find a way to improve the level of these mechanical pets. Don't forget, there are not many mechanical civilizations in this world. After saying that, Yejuju took the lead in lying on the chair and entering the virtual space. In the virtual space, the two appeared in the arsenal one after another. Similar to each other, both chose the sword and the telekinetic flying knife. Luo Feng had an extra shield in his hand, which was also the equipment he was most used to using since he participated in the assessment. Seeing that both chose the flying knife, people who knew immediately exclaimed, "Ah! They both chose the flying knife. Are they both spiritualists? It's amazing. This is so interesting. They are both spiritualists, and they also use flying knives. This fight will be interesting. Wow! There are actually two spiritualists in our batch of students. It's really shocking. I've decided that I must hold their big retreat. This is definitely a strong man who challenges beyond the level." No matter what people outside say, the two tacitly choose the city ruins terrain and enter the competition scene at the same time. The scene flashed, and the two appeared in a deserted city ruins, standing on the roof of a building on the left and right, looking at each other from a distance. At this moment, Luo Feng took the lead. He suddenly jumped down from the top of the building, and when the onlookers didn't know what he was going to do, he saw the shield in his hand suddenly fly to his feet and lie flat, and he stepped on the shield and flew towards Yejuju at high speed. The flying speed was so fast that it was not slower than the speed of the intermediate war god. Yejuju stood on the building, and his mental power moved, and 9 flying knives floated behind him, spreading behind him like a peacock spreading its tail, which was very beautiful. The onlookers were immediately in an uproar, and someone shouted, "9. He can control 9 flying knives at the same time, which can only be done when his mental power reaches the war god level. Wow, Yejuju is actually a war god level mentalist, so powerful." No matter how much he was praised by the outside world, the battle between the two started 50 meters away. Yejuju connected the 9 flying knives into a line like a sword, and shot them towards Luo Feng. Luo Feng also controlled the 6 flying knives to form a high-speed rotating fan to meet the 9 flying knives attacked by Yejuju. The sword in his hand kept waving to help the flying knives block the flying knives of Yejuju. In the air, as if a blacksmith shop was opened, the sound of ding ding dang dang rang out continuously. Unfortunately, although Yejuju's flying knife was blocked by him, it bounced back and rotated in the air again. It turned around and was controlled by Yejuju's mental power and continued to shoot at Luo Feng. Seeing this, Luo Feng knew that this was not a solution. He knew that his mental power was not as good as Yejuju, and he would definitely lose if he fought with consumption. The only way was to fight Yejuju in close combat, hoping to find an opportunity to defeat Yejuju in close combat. Of course, Luo Feng also knew that the possibility of defeating Yejuju was very small, but he just wanted to try and see how big the gap between him and Yejuju was. Yejuju did not use all his strength as promised before. Luo Feng felt pressure just standing there and controlling 9 flying knives. Luo Feng was also desperate. Long-range flying knife attacks were not advantageous, so he rushed to Yejuju against Yejuju's flying knife attack. In the end, it was not bad. Luo Feng was worthy of being the protagonist of this world. He did not disappoint Yejuju. He rushed to him despite 5 waves of flying knives. In mid-air, Luo Feng jumped off the shield, held the hilt with both hands, and slashed Yejuju in the air. Seeing this, Yejuju did not panic at all and took a half step back. He held the knife with both hands and crossed it above his head. With the sound of dang, he blocked Luo Feng's powerful knife. The friction between the 2 knives brought about a tooth-grinding sound and sparks, and Luo Feng fell to the ground. Then, Luo Feng launched an attack without stopping, and each knife slashed at Yejuju's vitals. Yejuju responded calmly, holding up the knife with one hand to block, and the other hand was free to control the flying knife to attack Luo Feng from behind. Luo Feng was also smart. He abandoned the 6 small flying knives and controlled the shield to float behind him with his mental power, using the shield's area advantage to block Yejuju's flying knife shooting. The students watching outside cheered for the two of them after seeing such a wonderful battle. There was no way. Yejuju held the knife in one hand and calmly blocked Luo Feng's attack. His leisurely appearance was like a knight with high martial arts skills in the novel. He was so calm that it was amazing. And Luo Feng rushed to attack with every move, just like a swordsman warrior, rushing and hitting hard and moving forward. People can't help but admire Luo Feng. This is a real warrior. No matter how powerful the enemy is, he will fight to the end. Especially his use of mental power to control the shield to resist the flying knife, which opened their eyes. You know, among all the warriors with attribute abilities, the mentalist is the most feared. The reason is very simple. The weapons they control are mostly javelins, short knives, and the like. Especially the flying knife is very difficult to defend because it is small and easy to hide. But Luo Feng blocked the flying knife with a shield. It must be said that he has a lot of ideas. Yejuju fought with Luo Feng while distracting himself to control the flying knife. He was even able to point out Luo Feng's shortcomings when he was using the knife, which really discouraged Luo Feng. He knew that there was a huge gap in strength between him and Yejuju, but he didn't expect it to be so big. Originally, he still had the killer of mental power, but now it is not as high as Yejuju's newly awakened mental power, which really made him speechless. Seeing that he could not defeat Yejuju after a long time, Luo Feng knew that he was doomed to fail. Sure enough, when he was defeated again and again, Yejuju started to fight back. When the perfect sword technique was displayed, Luo Feng suddenly felt that Yejuju's swords were everywhere, and he felt that he didn't know how to resist. In fact, it was true. Yejuju used a fast sword. There is a saying that the world's martial arts are indestructible except for speed. Yejuju relied on his super physical fitness and the ability of a high-level combat master. Not only did he make his sword heavy, but he also brought the word fast to the extreme. Such a Yejuju, let alone Luo Feng, could fight back and forth even with the sword technique instructor Zhang Fang. Luo Feng naturally couldn't resist it, but fortunately he could still insist on using his sword to resist Yejuju's 13 swords. Amid the sounds of ding ding dang dang, Luo Feng retreated while resisting Yejuju's continuous attacks. The next moment, he retreated to the edge of the building, stepped on empty air, and fell down. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, De Chuanqi. Chapter 421. While fighting with Luo Feng, Yejuju had to distract himself to control the flying knife, and he could even point out Luo Feng's shortcomings when using the knife, which really discouraged Luo Feng. Rightward arrow. I knew that there was a big gap between his strength and Yejuju's, but I didn't expect it to be so big. He tried his best and didn't even have time to talk, but Yejuju was so relaxed and could still point out himself. It was really speechless. Originally, he still had the killer weapon of mental power, but now it was not as high as Yejuju's newly awakened mental power, which really made him ashamed. Seeing that he couldn't attack for a long time, Luo Feng knew that he was doomed to fail. Sure enough, when he was defeated again and again, Yejuju began to counterattack. When the perfect sword technique was performed, Luo Feng suddenly felt that Yejuju's swords were everywhere, which really made him unable to resist. In fact, it was true. Yejuju used a fast knife. Isn't there a saying that the martial arts in the world are indestructible except for speed? Yejuju relied on his super physical fitness and the ability of a high-level combat master. Not only did he make his sword heavy, but also brought the word speed to the extreme. Such a Yejuju, not to mention Luo Feng, can even fight back and forth with the sword instructor Zhang Fang. Luo Feng naturally couldn't resist, but fortunately he could still insist on using his sword to block Yejuju's 23 swords. With the sound of ding ding dang dang, Luo Feng retreated while resisting Yejuju's continuous attack. The next moment he retreated to the edge of the building, stepped on the air, and fell down. The onlookers exclaimed immediately, and then saw Luo Feng flying again on the shield. Yejuju naturally wouldn't be polite, and he controlled the flying knife from a high position to shoot at Luo Feng. Good Luo Feng, in a critical moment, he could completely resolve Yejuju's attack with 6 flying knives and the sword in his hand. Once again, Luo Feng looked at Yejuju in the air with a firm look in his eyes. The next second, he stepped on the shield and rushed towards Yejuju. Seeing this, Yejuju had to sigh that Luo Feng was worthy of being the protagonist of this world. With this unyielding spirit, it was no wonder that he became the strongest in this world, and finally broke out of the earth to become the overlord of the universe. This time, the two sides attacked each other, and Yejuju's attack did not hold back, and the sword attacked Luo Feng continuously. At this moment, Luo Feng saw an opportunity and suddenly launched the 3-layer 9-layer thunder blade. He suddenly jumped from the roof, his body was still in the air, holding the sword with both hands and raised it high, just like Lu Gang at the beginning. Lightning and thunder light immediately gathered on the blade. The light of lightning enveloped his whole body, forming a huge lightning ball. Seeing this scene, the onlookers were all in an uproar. Of course, they had seen the 9-layer thunder blade, and some even practiced it. But due to their limited qualifications, they were unable to comprehend the true secret of the 9-fold thunder blade, and no one could truly bring out the power of the 9-fold thunder blade. Now seeing Luo Feng easily bringing out the true power of the 9-fold thunder blade, how could they not be shocked and outraged? Originally, they all thought that after Luo Feng displayed the secret of the 9-fold thunder blade, Yejuju should be defeated. Who would have thought that when Luo Feng displayed the 9-fold thunder blade, Yejuju also displayed a sword technique that they had never seen before, but was equally powerful. Yejuju stood there, looking up at Luo Feng, holding the sword in one hand, pointing at Luo Feng in the air. Frost suddenly began to condense on the sword, and the air within a 10-meter radius around him was frozen into icicles, and icicles kept falling from mid-air. Visible to the naked eye, the 10-meter radius around Yejuju turned into a vast expanse of white. Although it did not look as powerful as the 9-fold thunder blade, it was enough to make people feel afraid. That's right, what Yejuju used at this time was the 9-fold ice blade that had been improved by the system. This time, thanks to the guidance of the ice mountain, Yejuju could mobilize the ice element in nature, and the power was naturally extraordinary. The 9-fold ice blade, which seemed to have no power, formed a frost space within 10 meters around him. This space can be regarded as the primary form of his domain. Once the enemy steps into it, it will definitely be continuously eroded by the power of ice. At this moment, Luo Feng had obviously condensed his energy to the peak in the air and had to release it. Luo Feng in the air screamed "Ah!" and shouted 9-fold thunder blade, lightning array, and then his body fell rapidly towards Yejuju on the ground like a meteorite. Yejuju did not shout out the name of such a middle school move like Luo Feng, but just rolled the sword in his hand to make a knife flower. It seems to be understated, but in fact, the power of ice in the body has been fully exerted. In the midst of lightning and thunder, a large amount of white energy suddenly rushed out from Yejuju's sword, and it rushed towards Luo Feng with a whistling sound. In an instant, the lightning and the white energy met, and the sound of thunder crackling rang out. At the center point where the two people touched, white ice continued to form, and was blasted into pieces by the lightning, and fell down. At this time, even those who didn't understand could see that the ice formed by the 9-layer thunder sword and Yejuju's unknown swordsmanship had reached a strange balance, and neither could do anything to the other. They also understood that this was the time for the two to decide the winner. It depends on who can hold on to the end, who can hold on until the other's physical strength is exhausted, and who will be the final winner. In fact, only the two people who fought against each other knew that Luo Feng had actually lost. This move exhausted Luo Feng's accumulated strength. Although the lightning was still roaring, he was already at the end of his strength. When this move was exhausted, he would lose. On the other hand, Yejuju not only easily resisted his lightning array, but also consumed more than half of his energy, and still had the strength to fight back. In fact, Yejuju was also surprised at Luo Feng's comprehension was really terrifying. I remember that Lu Gang only gave Luo Feng a tip at the beginning, but I didn't expect that he would actually research such a powerful move. Although this move did not cause any harm to Yejuju, it was also because his own strength was higher than Luo Feng, otherwise it would be hard to say who would win or lose. Finally, in the struggle between the two sides, Luo Feng was the first to consume all the energy in his body. The lightning suddenly dissipated, and he was not surprisingly frozen into an ice sculpture by Yejuju's ice power and frozen in mid-air. Then, the frozen body fell down and broke into ice chips on the ground. At the end of the game, Yejuju won the final victory and won the first place in the supernova. The students who were watching cheered in unison, cheering for the wonderful fight between the two. That's right. Although Luo Feng was defeated by Yejuju, he won everyone's respect for him.